Hey folks, this is Jason Lewis, the producer of the From the Shadows podcast. I just want to remind you about our website, fromtheshadowspodcast.com. We have a Facebook page. We would appreciate it if you like and follow. Also, join our discussion group on Facebook called After the Shadows. We have a Twitter feed. Please follow us on Twitter. It can be found with @podcast_from. Follow us on Instagram at From the Shadows Podcast. We have a YouTube channel. Go to the search bar at YouTube and put From the Shadows Podcast, and please subscribe to that channel. We are also on the Odyssey Radio Network, and we can be found there at odyssey1.com. We're still on the traditional podcatchers that everybody loves to listen to us on. We get a lot of feedback, so please rate the podcast and communicate with whether you're on Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn, Apple Podcasts, Podbean, or Google Podcasts. We're there, and we appreciate it when you leave comments for us. Well, that's all I have for you right now, folks, and thanks for being a part of the From the Shadows podcast family. So with that being said, let's get this episode started. Now I'm going to turn you over to your host, Shane Grove.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to this week's Midweek Howl. I'm joined by Jason, the producer. What's up, Jason?
Greetings, everybody.
And the Ozark Howler. You want to give us a howl this frosty morning?
I'm howled. It's my thermometer in my truck says it's 26 degrees. So, it was 22 a while ago. I don't know, maybe because I'm parked in the sun or something. But, I'm just, as the older I get, I realize why these people flock to Florida and Arizona. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Amen. Because as I sit here looking over the dash of my packed full mail vehicle, and I do mean it's packed full. So here's your friendly PSA to all the listeners all around the world. If you're shipping something this Christmas, do it now, because it ain't getting there if you wait too much longer. I'm just gonna clue you in on that. So I'm sitting here in my freezing cold mail truck looking at about 5 inches of snow from last night here in north central Ohio. So you know what, Howler? I know you got to have a good snow story in your career, don't you? Because I don't have any good snow stories.
I have got, what's crazy is I lived in Minnesota for 17, 18 years, and you'd think all my good snow stories would be in Minnesota, but the ones I remember the most are from right here in Missouri, where if you get 5 or 6 inches of snow, don't worry, in 2 or 3 days it'll be gone. So but the couple hours or the couple days it's there, it wreaks absolute havoc on the motoring public. And in my old job, as a deputy sheriff and a state trooper, we had to go out in the snow and help the wayward traveler. And I'm telling you, there was days that I don't know what was worse, the wayward traveler or the wayward first responder.
Mm-hmm. I can tell you every day it's the wayward mailman in the snow is worse than both of those. But go ahead.
Well, I was just trying to decide if I'm going to tell a story on myself first or a story on my partner first.
I don't think you can probably go wrong.
I hate to make him look bad without making myself look bad first.
Okay.
Okay. That makes sense. You know what I mean? I don't want you to think that I'm just picking on him, but hey, I was sitting there, I had a brand new cop car, and it won't mean anything to anybody except for people that know, but for because of the politics of the office, I had some of the latest, greatest technology, right? So I had these fancy LED light bars. This is 25 years ago when they were first coming. So I had the latest and greatest of everything. And I was about to get off work. It was about 11 or 12. I think I was supposed to get off at midnight or whatever. And I was sitting at the sheriff's office bragging and showing off all this equipment in my car, right? And it had snowed, but the snow was scraped off, so the highways were clear. and it was between Christmas and New Year's. So I'm sitting there, Plectron's going off, and then they call the patrol. The patrol's calling my partner, the trooper that's taking over for me. She's coming to work as I'm getting off. I knew her. She was from my hometown. We were the same age. We went to college together. She graduated. I didn't, but
and ended up the same place.
Yeah, we ended up in the same place. Yeah, which leads me to all kinds of jokes I can tell. Anyhow, I got there before her. So, hey, whatever. Anyhow, they dispatch her, and she's brand new to the zone, and I know where I'm going. So I tell her, now she's there looking at my car with these other cops or whatever. And I said, hey, just follow me out there. She said, okay. So we go tear ass. And of course, I really just want to turn all the lights and sirens on this car, because that's what the kind of stuff, when people hate young cops, there's usually a good reason. I mean, it's usually, so I turn all my red lights and all my sirens. We go tear ass and we get on the highway and we get up to speed, and they tell us on the radio, it's car that's overturned. And then they say, well, they've hit a cow. Well, you've all seen deer struck on the road, right?
Yeah.
Well,
Yes.
I'm telling you what, you hit 1,000 or 1,200 pound cow on the road, and usually everything stays right there, right?
Yeah.
It ain't like, yeah. So we go flying up, and we're in farm country. So the north side of the highway, we're on east-west highway. The north side of the highway, which is our left side, it's just picked bean fields. So, I mean, it's just as flat and clean as you can get, except for some snow on there. And the south side of the road is about the same thing, but there was a feed lot right next to town. Anyway, as there's a 4-way intersection we got to stop at. We turn on this highway. I'm tearing up, and I could tell something was in the road. So I'm slowing down. And there's a dead cow in the road, but there ain't no car. So I shine my light out, I turn my spotlight out, in my alley lights, these side lights, and way out in this field, I think, if memory serves me right, 600 and some feet off the roadway was a Mazda 300 ZX upside down.
No. Oh, no.
So me and this trooper, I was going to call her a troopette, but that's kind of sexist. You can't say that stuff anymore. We go walking across this field, and what it had done is it's hit this cow in the road going 117, 120. I don't remember. My sergeant reconstructed it fast. And he loses the left front corner, the driver's side tire. All that folds up and basically locks that corner up. He goes into a counterclockwise skid and vaults off the road. The roadway, as you guys know, out in farm country, the roadway a lot of times is elevated compared to the farm fields around it, right?
Yes.
So it vaults off of this roadway, right rear corner first, because it's went into this skid as it's going around, and it was going. When it vaulted, it was still going 100 and something, 112, 13, 114, 100 and something, which means impact. Who knows how fast he was going. So when it vaults off of there, the first thing it hits is it goes off right rear corner first. So that right rear corner is the first thing hits this plowed field. The hatchback window comes out right there and looks like it's shattered, but the complete outline of this hatchback window is right there. You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And there's a dude in it face down.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Yep,
And then the car goes
bad.
end over end and continues out in this field 3 or 4 more times, right? So, and there's nobody else around, but they're telling us on the radio, hey, the driver and the passenger are down at the first house. And when you're out in farm country, you get in a wreck, a lot of times you got to go a quarter mile or a half mile or whatever to the first house to call. This is back before people had cell phones and stuff, you know what I mean? So when you got in a wreck, these people had to walk to get help, right? So
there was people that made it out of this wreck.
Listen to me. Now, so they tell me the driver and the passenger are down at the first house on the right, down the road. That's where the 911 call was coming from. And I thought, well, dude, I got a passenger here. So I shined my light over at this kid, and my partner, she looked at him, and I said, that effer's dead, I think is what I said, or something like that. And we continued out to the car to check inside the car. Then they called us. So we walked back past this dude, and he come out of the back hatchback of a window, right, going 100 miles an hour. We get in our patrol cars, we drive down to the house, and there's two dudes in there. And what they had done was they had one of them was partially ejected but crawled out. The other one was only the driver had a seatbelt on. So the driver was in pretty good shape. The other passenger was jacked up. So he's one of them deals. He'd walked a quarter of a mile down to this house, sat down on the couch, and then he never moved again. They had to come and backboard him, and because his back and neck was all jacked up, But I guess the adrenaline or whatever let him, walk down to this house. So first ambulance gets there. They're attending to all these people, and the second ambulance is rolling up, and we say, hey, there's a dude out here in the field, because they're all asking for Jimmy or Joey or whatever his name is. So me and this trooper go back out there to the field to bring his second ambulance over there, and they walk across out in the snow, I don't know, 25, 30 feet, 30 yards, I don't remember how far, a long way, it seemed like, in the middle of this shattered glass, and there that kid is, and that first EMT, one of them got up by his head, and the other one got in the middle of him, and they rolled him over. She says, well, let's roll him over and see. And when she rolled him over, he went, oh, it's cold. It's cold.
Oh my goodness.
He was still alive?
All of them were alive. All of them lived.
Oh,
so this is the crazy part, huh?
Yeah, that is crazy.
This is the crazy what? This is the crazy part.
Okay.
So I go back to the dead cow, the victim, if you will. So I talked to the driver, and the driver said, man, we were driving down the road, and I thought it was a piece of round bale or a hay bale in the road, so I didn't try to veer around it. And I said, what do you mean you couldn't tell it was a cow? And he said, dude, I thought it was a hay bale. You know how sometimes when they feed in a lot of round bales, a piece of the hay bale or whatever will come off of?
Mm-hmm.
And he said, but that thing wasn't standing in the road. Is that what? Because when I was talking to him, he didn't even know he had hit a cow. He thought what was in that hay bale. So I went over to this cow with my mag light, drove back over this fancy car with all these lights, turned them on, and this cow was dead right in the middle of the striped lines, stripes, and right in the middle of the road was that. And you guys that are old enough to remember, it had that 85, 86 blue Ford emblem from like a pickup, the blue oval, right in the middle of the thing, right in the middle of the highway, right?
It was tough.
Yeah, and then so I take my flashlight, I'm following around behind my car, and then a Ford truck has hit this thing, and I could see this trail of antifreeze where the guy had turned around and went back the other way, right? Went back west.
Mm-hmm.
So my sergeant came out there the next morning. We fully expected one or two of those kids to die. They flew them all, two of the three to the university, which is what they do here. I don't know what they do out east, but there's always a place. They bring these helicopters in, fly these people to let students work on them or whatever. And anyhow, my sergeant came out next morning and said, hey, we're going to reconstruct that. I've got to do 2 a year, and it's the end of the year, so I'm going to do it on. And that's how I had the vault formulas and some other stuff. And he says, what are you going to do? And I said, I'm going to go back to that little town. There's a little town. I don't want to say it is on the radio or on the podcast here because there'd probably be people from here or whatever. But anyway, it's a little 350 person town. I said, I'm going to go door to door until I find this truck. He goes, are you really? And I said, well, yeah. So I went door to door I drove past every house, went down every alley, and finally back by this dude's pile of wood. You know how they have an old detached garage and then the lean-to full of wood and some other stuff? Mm-hmm. There's a blue tarp covering the front half of a F-150 pickup truck. So I get out, I walk over there, pull the tarp back, and here's here's cow hair that I feel in my limited experience with dead cows that matches the victim out there on the highway, right? So I went up and knocked on the door, and I said, "Hey, can I talk to who owns this truck, the driver's truck?" And he hummed around a little bit. And he said, "It ain't my truck." And I said, "What's the deal?" "Well, I really not run to get into it." And he was just your typical blue collar stick up for his drunk buddy dude. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I said, "Well, you were here last night." And he said, "Yep." And I said, "You seen all the ambulances and you heard the helicopters tonight?" He says, "Yep. And I said, "It's my professional opinion, and that truck is tied to it, which makes you part of the crime." Whoa, man. Okay, I'll tell you. So-and-so, I'm going to call him Joe. Joe showed up last night at 1:30 or whatever, or 12:30, whatever time it was, and wanted me to take him to his mom's house, which is in another little crap town, 15 miles away. And I said, "Okay, see how easy it is?" I called for a tow truck, towed this old truck, and then I went down to this dude's mom's house. He's 30, and of course I run him on my computer. Before we get there, I have dispatch do all the stuff. He's what's called under revocation. So there's suspensions and revocations and then denials. So he is revoked for driving while intoxicated convictions. He's got no license. So I figured he probably was drunk, right?
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So the problem is on the hammer that you hold on people's heads is on leaving the scene of an accident or something like that. You'll take their license. Well, for career criminals that don't have a license, you really don't have any way to pressure them into helping you at all. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
So what you got to do is trick them. So I put my trooper hat on, and I knocked on the door because that hat's going to come up in court. I knocked on the door, and this dude, the kind of what a 40-year-old dude that still lives with his mom looks like, right? So I don't have to get into that description. But
wait a second. It wasn't that long ago I had to live with my mom, just so you know.
Well,
okay, go ahead.
In that case, hey, he looked like a 40-year-old Willie Nelson. He's skinny, had his billfold on a chain, and I'm not making fun of dudes with billfolds on a chain. I'm just setting you up, right? I'm painting a picture. Blue jeans, wife beater like t-shirt. I don't remember what his t-shirt was, like an old printed t-shirt that had been washed 1,000 times, right? So he'd probably bring twice the money nowadays because my kids buy clothes that are wore out all the time. But anyhow, and he's barefoot, and I forgot what his name is now. I said, "Hey, Joe." He said, "Yeah." I said, "I want to talk to you about your truck." And he goes, "What truck? I don't have no truck." I said, "No, I said, Missouri's not a free range state. So the owner of that cow is responsible, and this is true. The owner of that cow is responsible if his livestock gets out and damage occurs." And I said, "So in order for you to get paid on that truck, I need to hear what happened." And he goes, "I'm getting paid on my truck." I said, "Yeah, you get paid on your truck." So he says, "Well, I was driving down the road and this whole herd of cows." He said, "I was trying to dodge them, but the whole herd come out there." And I said, "Okay." I asked him, he didn't want me to come in his house. So I asked him, "Can I talk to you out, but not in here?" I said, "Well, come on out." So he walked out barefoot, because that comes into court a little later. So I give him the free range deal. He says there was a whole herd of them. I tried to do my best to, but that son of a gun's right in the middle of the road. I had nowhere to go. And I said, "Okay, that's kind of what I figured, I said, "Why did you call it in last night?" "Well, I didn't have a way, didn't have a phone, didn't have this, didn't have that." Finally get to his license. "Well, what's the deal with your license?" "Well, I lost it, blah, blah, blah." So finally I get him to admit that he was driving the truck because he thinks he's getting paid for this raggedy old Ford pickup. So that's when I got to drop the hammer on him. I said, "Hey, this is the deal. You're under arrest for leaving scene of an accident that caused an injury, fell, and he goes, injury? The fucking cow, man? I felt like I was talking to Jeff Bridges on The Dude. The fucking cow, man? And I said, well, what happened is somebody came along later and you left the scene with that dead cow in the road. Somebody come along and hit that cow and got hurt. Well, I wasn't driving. I changed my mind.
Okay.
So by this time, I cuff him up. I take him to jail. I remanded him to the custody of the proper authorities here. And of course, in true live with your mom fashion, he gets a public defender because he got no. And they tried to rake me over the coals. This wonderful liberal and tried to rake me over the coals. Did you have your hat on? Did you have your gun on? You're an imposing person compared to my client. I think you basically said I bullied him into confessing. And I said, no, I didn't bully him into confessing. I tricked him into confessing. And it wasn't really a trick because he did get paid for his truck. I can't help it that he, by trying to get this farmer to pay for his truck, he opened himself up for all this liability. So anyway, he was obviously found guilty because I had a good case on him. So as far as liability is concerned, it doesn't matter because his mom had insurance on that truck. The farmer's insurance and the kid that hit him, this is a small town America, they all had the same insurance company, so it was all settled out. So then this is where I get terrible here. This is when, so I talked to the prosecutor about it and I explained what was going on. And I said, hey, he says, well, what do you think? He used to talk like this. He reminded you of Mike Tyson. He was a big guy, but he talked like this. He says, well, Joe, what do you wish you do about the driver? He's really going that fast. I said, well, I can write him some tickets too. Well, I think you. So I drive over to the university where this is just a day or two after the wreck, right? And these people were bawling. The mom, the driver's mother and father was there at that accident scene crying because that's what they do in the country. They call your parents before they call the ambulance. And they were seeing their entire life go down the drain because they thought they were going to be liable for their kid, all these injuries of their kid driving this car, right? Because there was some beer involved. 2 of the 3 of them were home from college. And anyhow, I told them that night, I'm going to go try to find the truck that hit that cow. And so I went down to the hospital and I said, hey, they were all sitting in this hospital room, the kids up and talking and I said, I got some good news. And then what's the good news? I found the driver of that truck. Did you really? And the mom gives me a big hug. And I said, yeah. I said, this, it's so-and-so. His name's so-and-so. He's from Farber, Ladonia, whatever Bergen town it is up here. And I said, I took him to jail. He's been, he's being charged with leaving the scene. Oh, you're great. She's in tears. You're such a great guy. Great guy. And so I look at Junior there and I said, Junior, the problem is I've also got a speeding ticket for you here. A speeding ticket? I said, well, yeah. I said, we reconstructed that accident. And I said, we've come to the determination. I think it was 113. I said that car was going 113. At least we can prove that it was going at least 113 miles an hour. And they do it by gravity because it vaulted. And gravity pulls at 9.8 meters per second squared, or 32 feet per second. It was proven in a Guinean feather tube. I don't want to get into all the crap. But basically how fast that car would have to be going to go that distance from where it left the road to where it hit the dirt. Does that make sense? They measure that, and they say that thing would have to be doing this. So I said 120 feet post-impact, you're still going 113 miles an hour. And remember the mom I told you was crying and hugging me? It's like most relationships I've had, it instantly went to, you motherfucker, what are you talking about? And she said, that little car won't even go that fast.
Not anymore.
And I said, well, I think it would. Nope, not if you got to stop at the 4-way. There's no way. And mom and dad, now dad, I can tell he's the one because he's a dad, so he's drove fast. You know what I mean? He's been in some stuff.
Yeah.
So he didn't really want to die on this hill like mom did. But she says, we're not accepting that ticket. He's not signing it. We're not accepting it. And I said, well, I tell you what. She said, because that little car won't go that fast. I said, I'm sure it will. As I said, it's a 300 Nissan 300 ZX. I said, they're known to be going fast. I said, I think if I look up the manufacturer's thing, reviews and stuff, I think we'll find it goes well beyond, 113 or whatever. She said, well, he couldn't get it go that fast if it stopped at 4-way and did all this stuff. And I said, well, hold on a second. We're 1.34 miles, because I'd measured it from the stop sign, the 4-way stop, to where this.
You didn't write him a ticket for not stopping, did you?
No, he couldn't. I said, I know he could have done it, because at the time I think my Crown Vic was a 1997 Crown Victoria. I said, I have a brand new Ford Crown Victoria police car that aren't really known to be that fast, really, and it'll go from a dead stop at the stop sign. It'll go 126 miles an hour before I get to that accident scene. So I know that is within that capability. So as I'm trying to debate her, and I'm telling you what, she is freaking Looney Tunes on me. Now, when I was a kid, you want to deal with the troopers because you didn't want to deal with your parents, right? Well, this is the newer flip-flop generation, where these parents are pit bulls. And so finally he goes, well, maybe it'll go that fast. Maybe he ummed around, and they finally took the ticket. But I went from being the hero to worthless. I was a son. She couldn't believe I'd stooped that low. He nearly lost his life. And for me to come in there and give him that ticket was adding salt to a wound. I think it feels like sea salt.
Well, I think as we end this episode, we can learn 2 lessons from this. 1, don't speed down a country road, especially where there's livestock, because it ain't going to end well. And number 2, thank God the howler ain't patrolling these country roads up here, because you'd be writing a lot of tickets in hospital rooms.
Okay. Words of wisdom.
Well, everybody, like
go.
I said, mail your packages now, or you're not going to get them.
Well, there you have it. Like a Democrat, vote early and often, right? Mail early and often.
Multiple times.
All right, stay warm out there. Bye.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of the From the Shadows podcast. Until next time, never shy away from the darkness or what may be lurking in the shadows. We are out.